Hi y'all, I'm Sarah, the Director of Media and Technology at the Diocese, and welcome to the first episode of Clergy Cribs. Alright, we will be featuring a new church building once a month to show off our diocese to the world and to each other. This week I traveled to St. Patrick's Broken Arrow with the new building committee from Grace Church Yukon to learn from Father Shelby about the St. Patrick's building project process over the last 2 decades. So St. Patrick's is an example of a very modern church with much of its focus on the Book of Common Prayer's theology of space.
Well, there are lots of things, and I'm a little frenetic, so I'm going to tell you. You've already come through one of the most important pieces. I went to a church, a nameless church in downtown Tulsa, and there are 14 doors, 13 of them which were locked, and I couldn't find which door to get into. When you go to a church, you want one primary door, visual access, so you can get in and you know where you're going. When I arrived at St. Patrick's, we were an A-frame church over on the other side of town. There were 30 people, and everyone had a key to this one metal door that had no window in it that was into the parish hall. All the other doors were locked. They even had a board across, nailed against the front door. And parishioners came through the secret door because they had a key, and the other doors were either locked and they can. We don't know why we're not growing. Well, let me tell you a few reasons why. And 30% of that building was hallway, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
How you gather and how you welcome in space is critical. And you'll also have to think through lots of phasing. So I'm going to be thinking about that, because as a congregation that wants to start and say, oh, we want to build the perfect building so that we can grow and handle our ministerial needs for the next 40 years. And you can do that if you have unlimited pockets of $18 gazillion. In that we had to raise the money and everything to do, you realize how important it is to do things in phasing. And you have to figure out what are your priorities. And how do you make those decisions about what is your space going to do? What is the ministry of the space? Primarily, before you start in with, oh, I want to have stained glass windows. Oh, I want to have tripartite windows. Oh, we need to have, stop that. What is space? What is the purpose of space? What does it mean to be the body of Christ that gathers? That should drive all your decisions. Statement, I wanted that to confront us. This is who we are. This is what we're about. Your program. They will help you develop space that enables you to be who you are called to be. If by the end of your building project it doesn't match your mission statement, fire them. Period. Because building enables that. And if you don't have that clear, you're building something that's giving you emotional feelings. You're not building buildings that enables you to do ministry. So, that was our mission statement. When we started the building process and doing this when there were 40 or 50. By the time we moved, we had 100 at worship. And when we started building, there was 100. By the time we moved here, we had 200 on a Sunday. They never thought they would build for a building that was larger than 100 on Sunday. So we wanted, some parameters. First, I'll just come in and experience something, and I'll show you. Now,
they've all read it.
You've read it? Thank God. 4 principal elements. Altar, font, pulpit, but the primary is the gathered community of God. During Advent and Lent, all the congregation faces each other, because our theology says that, it's not just this relationship, the transcendent, it's also the immanence, that you are together. If you cannot find Christ in each other, then forget this number. So one of the radical things, and you'll find that most people under the age of 40 love it when we're facing each other in choir style. Over 60, they think, well, it makes me uncomfortable. I have to look at Sally during worship, and I have to think about her. I said, right, and that's a good thing in worship. And over 80-year-olds, they say, this is brilliant. So it's really kind of fascinating. The over 80s get it, the young millennials get it, and the people my age, they don't like it because they want to just think about God things and not their neighbor. I would suggest that was the best thing we did in this space. This is seating for 300. It's flexible. We even use it for parish gatherings because initially you couldn't build everything we wanted. They will tell you, okay, you can build this with this quality, or you can build this much with lower quality. Now, what do you want? Well, we want this much with this quality. You can't do it. So you have to make some tough choices. So we designed space that was flexible and did things like these walls open up. And before, the gathering space was half of that in one of the phases. And so that became our parish hall. And then we opened this up for even more parish hall. And when we had dinners, we would have the tables in there and in here. And then when we had dances and like parish party nights, we would have tables in here. It also matches your theology, that what you do as the community of God over a table is just as holy as what we do at this table. It took a few people some getting used to that, but it helped. It also helps that when we have a funeral, when there are 400 or 500 in here, then you can open that up and seats that way. So the other things that you need to notice are that there's a sense of intimacy. The distance between the altar and the font and the pulpit, it's all very gathered. You can gather around the baptismal font, living water, and the whole community can gather around. You've probably picked up this is the shape of the church. The baptismal font needs to be big and sufficient for plenty of symbol. The idea of having a little bowl that says, you are baptized as a Christ child is inadequate. Our symbols need to be clear. They need to be of good quality. Plastic does not belong in the courts of the Lord. Neither does carpet. And you need things that confront you. When you walk in, you're confronted by your baptismal identity. This is where the people of the baptized community gather. And so you can see that, well, it takes just a second for it to come, but we can immerse, we can do children, or we can kneel in. We do the foot washing here. We do a lot of everything right around here. We build the fire at the vigil of Easter here in Conception. No altar rails except for minimal. Altar rails came, I think they're 1580 with the Archbishop of Canterbury, William Laud, and who said, we need to have rails up there to keep those animals out of the sanctuary. Animals were going up and hiking their legs on the altar rail. And he said, we really want to keep the sheep and the animals and the dogs out in the congregation. We'll keep you warm. That was the beginning of altar rails. They were had no other purpose other than that. Later on in the Reformation, people started kneeling up there. You don't need altar rails. Any barrier between us and the people of God and the action of the altar should be minimized, symbolically and visually. Everything should be of substance of the primary symbol, and the transcendence as well as the immanence need to be. The other thing we have found is that when some little old lady goes down during a service, it's very easy to move a chair out of the way and bring in the stretcher for the MSIT to take them out. You should avoid steps if at all possible. Go to any old church now and you'll see steps everywhere and you think, oh my God, only the well-bodied are welcome here. Mm-hmm. Thank God for ADA. We've even designed so that you can have a ramp so that the priest can get up there if the priest is in a wheelchair. You really need to think that stuff through way in advance. You need a sense of, we wanted light. We wanted space also that is acoustically live. And this is what we've got. Now, the problem with wanting to build this maxed out our budget initially. So we said, well, what are we going to do? How can we get everything else that we want? So we had a very small, and I'll show you the plans, piece right here. Now, the other thing that I want you to notice is that our gathering space is contiguous with the worship space. If you, I asked a few congregations, we took our group around and toured. I said, tell me the fights. And we went to Joy Lutheran and they said, well, the evangelism committee is fighting that we should have coffee hour here. And then there was another group, the Parish Life Committee said, well, we should be having coffee hour over there down the hall. And we chewed on that for a while. Why are they having fights about where you have coffee? And then we realized that they were having to work against their space to build community. What builds community? People having coffee and engaging each other. Round tables. We don't have square tables. Round tables where you can converse. You need one door where people can't escape. You know, so I don't want to talk to the clergy or anything. Yes, you have all the fire exits you need, but I'm talking about one door, not like a nameless church nearby where there are 6 ways to avoid the clergy and or others, and you can just get out. Yep. So we thought about how do you come in and how do you exit, and how do you gather people. Choosing to go down a hallway to a parish hall will kill the building of community. Only people already plugged into that community will go down the hall 20 feet to go have coffee. You need it to be contiguous with your worship, and so it flows naturally. Changed 5 or 6 times on who works in it, and this has been, even in the decade that this room has been existent, has been 5 different things. It's been from children's chapel to young adults to everything else. And again, walls that open up. Those are expensive, but anything that increases flexibility is brilliant. And GH2 is really good about that stuff. So the other thing is, like on Easter, then all these rooms open up, and when we have sit-down meals for 200, this can accommodate. So we have youth rooms, and then we have a typical educational stuff rooms that you can see. So our driving thing first was worship. Second was to have the gathering space for community. Then we finally built educational space. And then the last phase, we'll throw in 2 other phases in there. We doubled the parking lot.
Let them poke in here. You can see all these.
Tell you,
so this was a classroom, now it's storage. Right?
Yeah. Number one issue, and I will already tell you a fight 5 years out from now, you all will have a say, well, we've designed a storage space, but we can't afford it. So we're going to have to cut the storage. And then what you'll do is you'll have storage in your parish hall space. We took our youth to this beautiful building in Colorado Springs. They paid $8 million to do the parish, but they didn't build storage space. They had all the tables and chairs just lined around this beautiful room because they didn't build storage. You'll cut storage. That's the wrong thing to cut. Chairs and tables must be contiguous with where they're being used. Otherwise, you'll get this all over your building.
So where's your storage?
Right. Well, that's for education space. Our tables and chairs are here. By the way, I'm assuming you noticed visual access into all rooms is required.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity to teach. Tables and chairs. Again, I wanted hardwood. That's just good old plywood. GH2 did that, because things get thrown in there.
Yeah.
But this is where they get used. If they're down a hallway or somewhere, what will end up happening is they'll just leave them out, and then people have to weave through them. I don't allow things to be left out. This is what we have out for every day of the week, unless in this weekend there were 4 or 5 different functions in here, small groups of 20 and 40, a group of 50, and they'll put tables and chairs back. If it's not contiguous, it won't happen. And then you'll have stacks of chairs, and that just looks tacky if it's just left out. Tacky is a sin. In our tradition, so they have the sunlight on Easter morning, the risen light. So when we placed this, the other thing we wanted to do was make it so that people knew where the main entrance was, and also parking. There are a lot of places where you'll have the church, then parking is way hidden, and it's just not obvious. People still, they walk in here and say, well, where's worship? You're building, if you have signs, or if your building needs signs, then they've made a mistake. Signage is a failure of good design. It should be obvious where you enter and where things are. And so if you have lots of signs, then something's not well done. Funerals, I've done 280 funerals since I've been here. We do a meal for
For
every
20 years,
Yeah,
for
25
clarity.
years. 25 years.
25
I've done
years.
that many funerals. And we do a meal for the family and everyone. So after a funeral, we're serving 150, 200 people. And so the congregation brings food, we warm it, and we serve it, linens and all of that stuff. But it's how we show hospitality to families in need. That has been one of our main growing edges and what's helped us to grow more than anything else. We're known as the church that does wonderful funerals. That and the feeding program are the two things we're known about. If you drive around town, do you know the Episcopal Church? What do you know about them? That's what they'll say. So we needed space that enabled that kind of ministry. Kitchen, let's just go there real quickly. We have 30 people who work on each funeral dinner. So we have 30 people in and out of here of the parish who are working and volunteering. So I need enough space so that the people can wash dishes together. If I wash dishes with you for 1 hour, we're going to be intimately related. And I'm going to know you and you're going to know me, and we're going to have a relationship. So see this space as an opportunity to build community. Don't see it as just function. Everything is ministry. We needed a refrigerator that enables ministry. We needed spaces where people can work together, not just to get the job done, but how does this build community? At one time, it was only this big. And then at one project, GH2 came up with the idea of blowing this out, taking this storage room, and then they built us a pantry in there. This was really good. I was proud of GH2. They did a good job on that. This is also space that gets high traffic. It's used every day of the week. Our buildings open at 6 in the morning. They typically close 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. So, and because I think that something nice, it matters when we're having soup together and a meal, and paper plates. Now that is a battle I have to fight a lot. Someone will come on and say, it's so easy. We can just throw it away. And then our millennials and I will say, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that's really the best thing. And we've seen, well, when I wash dishes with Tim over here, and he and I, talked about the sermon or life, and we built a relationship, and that matters. Then they say, oh, I don't mind doing dishes.
Yeah.
Because it's been so well designed, after feeding 200 people, we can do the dishes in 45 minutes. That's not a long time.
Yeah.
The quote, the educational suite, and then you'll see the whole building. The parish administrator, she runs the place. Typical kind of workroom, counters. You also need to think about in advance, where do you keep your money and stuff and your checks, and how does it get from the church into where it's counted and deposited, and security and all that stuff. And we also have lots of groups that meet, our youth person, and then also a restroom, another hall, curates in my office. We have in our DNA that every room is used for multiple things. At one point, the choir even practiced in the women's restroom. We didn't have enough space. So every room is used for something else. Even classes are always meeting in my office, which is here. And I wanted to be visible and accessible. And but I also wanted to have an escape hatch for violence. I've had a bunch of death threats and I wanted to be able to escape, to be honest. but every room needs to be flexible. Also, I'm only going to be here a while. There's going to be some other priest, and I wanted the kind of space and furniture that some other priest can come in and whatever she wants to do, or they can change it. A lot of you think in terms of square footage, and walls will also get moved. We started with stained concrete, and then when we moved, once we moved this wall underneath the plate, that's not going to be stained, so we're going to have to go to a tile. Your architects will guide you in those kind of things because you need to think about future phases. Now, right now, you're only going to be able to do this, but in 10 years, when you need to build that, make sure you are building and wiring and stuff in advance. How do we bury people and how do we use, right out here is the memorial garden where a lot of cremains and people are buried right here. And so we can go outside and bury them, go back in for the meal and stuff. And so we got a columbarium or the memorial garden. So we insert, and so it's close and contiguous, and it works.
Yeah.
Plus, we wanted a space so that when you come in, there's a sense of meditation or it's not just hard concrete to building, but a little bit of transition space.
How about